You can't beat the classics.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. All right, we got a premiere episode of You Can't Beat the Classics. So the premiere episodes work a little bit differently. Uh, we're going to cover new movies throughout the year. So in this case, this is the first one. This is the first one we're going to be doing for the year 2022. George is with me here as usual. What's up, George?
What's going on?
George is probably likely streaming on his Twitch, probably.
Yep.
Yep. So I'll leave that right here. Bison Madness. You can go to twitch.tv/Bison Madness if you want to catch in on these episodes and if you want to see George stream. But yeah, he's with me here to talk about. So over the weekend, we saw a little movie come out. One that's been I feel like it's been an eternity of waiting for this one. But you know, a lot of delays with it and a pandemic kind of changed up its course, you know, like a lot of movies. But I feel like this one was a lot longer. Um, so the movie we're going to be talking about is The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves.
Yeah. Are we doing a spoiler review?
Absolutely. So yeah, so I'll do that warning here. So if you haven't seen The Batman and you don't want to hear spoilers for it, you don't want to listen to this until you've seen it. So that's the spoiler warning here. Spoiler warnings in the description too, just in case you missed this clip. But that's it. We're going all in on The Batman.
Yep.
Yeah, so this The Batman, it was interesting leading up to its release because it had a lot of changes that went into it. You know, at first it started off as maybe a standalone for Ben Affleck's Batman, but then that ended up not working out. You know, there was a lot of creative differences, and then Ben Affleck was just like, you know what, just not going to do it. So Robert Pattinson ended up being cast as Batman, and I remember the immediate reaction for most, not everybody, but for most being, oh no, it's going to be Twilight and all this stuff. But and then that first trailer dropped like a couple of years ago, and immediately I was like, all right, we were wrong.
So, yeah, just to add to that, I think Affleck was supposed to. Part of Affleck signing on to do DC was that he was going to direct and star in his own solo movie, and the inception was that he was going to do the BVS and Justice League movie, and then he was getting his own, and then they scrapped the entire DCEU, right?
Yeah.
So that set this movie back again. Like the hype for this movie goes all the way back to like 2016. This is literally like a project that is almost 10 years in the making. So the fact that this is where we got to is insane. And then on top of that, yeah, when everyone found out that Affleck wasn't going to be in it, I want to say it was 2020. No, it had been.
It might have been like 2019.
Yeah, it was around the time pandemic started. We found out that Affleck was just not going to be the guy. Like, because they brought in Reeves to direct. So then it was like, okay, so is Affleck going to star in it? Mm-hmm. This whole thing has been kind of a calamity that you would see on like Entourage, right? Like it's been just the weirdest lead up. And then they announced Pattinson as fucking Batman. And I remember my knee-jerk reaction was yes. I was into it. But I do remember in our group of friends, there was at least 2 or 3 people who were like, what the fuck is DC doing? Mm-hmm. So I'm fucking so amped that this movie played out the way it did.
Oh no, for sure. Like, yeah, like that first trailer definitely changed people's minds. Like total 180 on how Robert Pattinson would be. And yeah, and then, you know, just, you know, a few other delays in between there. I think Pattinson even got sick during production.
He got COVID.
Yeah, at one point he got sick. Um, I remember that. But yeah, just a lot leading up to this movie. So finally, the Batman came out, um, and I gotta say, after seeing it, I loved everything about this movie. I thought the payoff was, I thought it was a really big payoff for it, and I know I told you a little bit on how I felt about it, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts were after it.
So obviously, the first thing you want to do is you want to compare it to Nolan, right? So
Mm,
in doing that, comparing this to Nolan's Batman, it's like, well, let's just apples for apples, right? Batman Begins. They used a lot of the same characters. They used so many of the same characters, which like made me so happy. Like they didn't scrap Nolan and be like, what Nolan did was stupid. We're gonna do it better. They
mhm,
took his idea and they expanded it and they just twisted it into a different direction, right? They made Batman younger. They gave you Carmine Falcone, not the comic book version like Nolan did. Nolan kind of gave you the comic book version. They said, no, 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 we're going to give you a different guy,
mhm,
which we need to talk about later. But then they mentioned Maroni. They used Maroni, but they didn't like you didn't see Maroni, which was
right.
cool. But then they amped it up a notch too with they gave you Colin Farrell as the Penguin. And they gave you Catwoman immediately. They gave you all the characters, but they didn't like it didn't feel like they rammed storylines down your throat, right? It felt like they gave you all these different characters and I don't know how they pitched it. Colin Farrell was a supporting actor, which is unheard of, right? And he wasn't just a supporting actor. At times, he was borderline just a cameo. Like he that literally is like again, I go back to Entourage. This movie reminds me of like a Vinny Chase film because I don't know if you watched the Entourage movie. I did over the
Mm.
weekend, and that's why it's so in my head.
Okay.
Johnny Drama, in his big break, only was in 4 scenes, and it felt like that's what Colin Farrell did. He took a huge backseat to Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz, and dude, he crushed it. He
Yeah.
crushed it. Like,
Yeah.
didn't just do well. He made you believe that it wasn't Colin Farrell. It's just a fucking weasel, right? I thought the
Yeah.
acting chops shown by the guy who plays Carmine Falcone
Yeah.
to
John Turturro.
John Turturro
Yeah.
was brilliant. Was brilliant. And every time I saw him, I thought of especially with the big twist at the end. I don't know if we're gonna go, it's a 3-hour movie. I don't know if we're gonna go scene for scene here. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump around a little bit.
No, that's
John
fine.
John Turturro made me believe, like, when in Jaws, Quinn is describing what great whites are like and how like they have those big eyes and then the eyes roll back when they're ready to attack.
Hmm.
It literally played out like that to me. And I was just like, man, this is beyond brilliant acting. And Pattinson was fine. I thought like he did a really good job acting, but his character arc, the development and everything is so subtle that if you're not paying attention or you take a quick bathroom break, you miss all of it, right?
Mm.
It's not in your face glaring like Bale's was, like where Bale was arguing with fighting justice and how to fight justice and
Yeah.
all this stuff, but it was like in your face, like you couldn't miss it. His was battling with being Bruce Wayne, being the Batman, not being just a badass guy at night, being someone that people could look up to and follow in his footsteps and not just saving people, but saving people and making people want to save other people. It was he, the cast was just great. I thought Zoe Kravitz was the worst part of the movie.
Oh
That
wow.
that
Okay.
being said, I thought she did a pretty good job. Her bar was set pretty high,
Yeah.
and I think she missed it, but I don't think she missed it by much.
Mm.
And it's kind of a backhanded
But
compliment, but
like, to your point though, on like all the characters being just like well done and just like feeling established like right out the gate, even though there's no origin story really. So that's what I liked about this movie is that we the fans don't need another origin story for Batman. Really, we don't need that. We know that he's the orphan, the wealthy orphan, and being brought up to choose that life of fighting crime and all that. So I liked that it started off with young Batman, like essentially like learning like how to be Batman, and going through a lot of trial and error, in doing so. And
I didn't think
Rob,
the beginning like did you think they showed like when you watched the trailers, did you think they showed too much in the trailers before you went into the movie? Because I did, and then I went into the movie and realized I only saw the first 5 minutes of the movie.
yeah, well, I'm gonna say no on that because like the stuff that happens in Madison, I mean, not Madison Square Garden, Gotham Square Garden, I should say, they show like none of that
Right.
in
Right,
that
but
in the
I mean,
trailers.
like before you saw the movie is what I'm saying. Like before you saw the movie and you watched the trailers, I thought they showed too much, and then I get into the movie and I'm like, I didn't even know what movie I was walking into. I
Yeah.
saw everything in the trailers in the first 5 minutes.
I thought the trailers were good because I'm not gonna play the trailer here. We usually watch the trailers, but we did our live reaction to the trailer when we watched DC Fandom last
Yeah,
year. So
if
I'll
you're
I'll put it.
watching this, go back and watch that because we
I'll,
spent 6 hours watching that stupid fucking DC fandom, and we deserve
yeah,
every goddamn view and like there's possible under the sun here.
definitely. I'll put a link in the description for that. So yeah, yeah. So but yeah, I didn't think the trailer. I remember after we saw that trailer, we were like, we don't even know how to piece this together because there's so much stuff. At the time, now we know, but that's why I don't think they showed too much.
Did you feel like it was more of a mystery movie than an action movie? Because
Yeah, I
yeah,
felt like it was. I felt like it was really like a.
come on, hurry, hurry up.
Well,
Larry thought so too.
he also thought so.
Oh my god, he broke my headphones.
Uh-oh.
I can't hear anything.
No, wait.
Oh, there we go. I
You,
got you. I
okay,
got
okay. All right.
you. So yeah. Anyway, it felt like more of a mystery movie.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I really liked that. It felt like I really liked that it felt like a who done it kind of. Well, it was a who done it, but in a weird way. Like you knew it was the Riddler, but you didn't know who the Riddler was, which
Yeah,
is what
and I
made it
thought the
interesting.
riddles really were like I wouldn't say like if you they weren't like overly complicated, right? Other than the cipher code, which that was crazy. Um, but
Yeah.
like the answers were all pretty easy answers if you think about it, like bats and you know justice, vengeance, all that stuff. They weren't like abstract answers that you couldn't have dragged out. But the fact that like watching it live, hearing the riddle live, and we're like, I don't know about you, I didn't get any of them right. I didn't know
Oh
what
no,
the
me
hell he's
neither.
talking.
But
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 Batman calmly, with a deep sigh of relief, had already figured it out, and he was on to the next clue. Like I thought Pattinson
yeah.
did such a good job being like, no, no, this is the answer. So if that's the answer, look over here. Let's look here. Let's look here. It showed that he was like an actual detective,
Hmm.
and I mean, for those of you watching, Batman's run of comic books is called Detective Comics. Like
Yeah.
he's so um it was cool that they worked that in, and it felt a lot like I had a Knives Out type of feel where I knew who the villain was, but now it was just piecing getting there. I like that. I thought that was, and also too watching this,
Yeah.
he made it an epic. Like the director didn't. It felt like a Scorsese film.
Mm.
It felt really really well done.
Yeah. Like, well, one thing I'll note on that's before we dive into like plots and plot and stuff like that. The score of this movie, amazing. Um, Michael Giacchino, I think his name is. He does the score, like he does the music for a lot of Matt
That
Reeves's movies.
that's what I had down with soundtrack. Soundtrack was
Phenomenal.
perfect.
Dude, I was listening to it while I was working today. I just had it on. But he is amazing. Like that theme that was constantly like playing for Batman. I'm like, I know this is brand new, but I'm like, this should like permanently be like the Batman's like theme song. Like
Yeah.
that like beat.
Is it weird? Like, I feel like everyone is on the Nirvana like train.
Well, actually, you mentioned that Matt Reeves said like you hear Nirvana during the movie um, a couple of times, but like Matt Reeves also said that this version of Bruce Wayne was inspired by Kurt Cobain.
Oh.
Hmm. So that's why
Oh.
he's like, I've been hearing the word like to describe like this Bruce Wayne and Batman as like broody has been a word I've been using, or and I guess if you're gonna compare him to Kurt Cobain, like grungy.
Mm.
I've been hearing.
So part of that, I guess, and this is a good segue. Part of like the Batman character that I really feel Nolan nailed that I wasn't sure that they were gonna nail because, you know, the last version swung and missed heavily, right?
Mm,
Was Alfred. Alfred was phenomenal. Andy Serkis
yeah.
dragged out the best part of all the Bruce Wayne scenes, and I went back and rewatched Batman Begins today because I thought that like you didn't get that part of Alfred. Like you got kind of a piece of it in the first one. It was the third one where you got all of the Alfred like it's not about you, right? And it's not about you giving yourself it's about me and my journey too. Like he cared. And you got a little bit of it in Batman Begins where he's like it's not your name, it's your father's name, like
Mm,
and Matt Reeves like covered everything. He tore down Thomas Wayne just to have Alfred, you know, redeem Thomas Wayne and Martha Arkham. Martha Arkham,
mm-hmm.
which was crazy.
Yep.
I thought it was like it was an angle that took us 3 movies to get all of Alfred out, and we're it feels like we're picking the ball up right where we left off with Alfred, and I fucking love it, man. I think the best Batman scene to date is when he's crying saying I failed you, and then literally he sees him at the restaurant. I think that's one of the best Batman scenes ever, like
Mm.
cinematically, and they captured it all, like picked right back up. Now you actually cared about Alfred versus like the '90s versions where Alfred was just the old guy who's there. Like
Yeah,
make me soup,
the
Alfred.
more soup guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Andy Serkis, he wasn't even in the movie a lot either. Like he had just as little screen time as probably Colin Farrell did. And like there was that point too where like I thought Alfred was dead, and
Yeah,
I was like, thank God he's not. But I there was that part of me where I was like, oh shit. I'm like, did they kill off Alfred?
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I was like kind of torn. I was like, "There's no way you killed off Alfred in the first movie. There's no
Yeah.
fucking way." But like, oh my god, that would it for a second there. You know, kind of had that vibe, right?
Yeah, I was worried at first, but um yeah, I mean he did an excellent job as like most of the cast did. I'm surprised to hear you say that about Zoe Kravitz playing
I thought she was
Selena.
terrible.
I
Like,
thought
not
she was
terrible,
really
but like
I thought she was really good. I
the
thought
rom
she was
the romance was too quick. The romance was way too quick.
she would kind of force she kind of forced that.
I so
Yeah.
a lot of what makes Catwoman amazing is she's gray. She's not black. She's not white. She's super fucking gray.
Mm.
Um, Anne Hathaway kind of encaptured that, but she missed the mark a little bit too.
Yeah.
The best version is Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle
Right.
Pfeiffer
Yep.
is just super great, killing everyone, but then also doing it for a good cause. She's kind of like the Punisher in a way. Um, and I
Well, you
think
think? Do you
go
think
ahead.
this is also Catwoman kind of starting off like kind of like Batman is because um
Well,
because
shit.
the reason Catwoman acts in this movie is because she's trying to find her. I don't think it's her friend. I think it's her. It's got to be her like girlfriend.
I think she calls her girlfriend a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I again, I mean, it is what it is. She didn't blow the movie or anything. I felt the romance part was like your girlfriend just got roasted and you're kissing this guy. Like I don't think I think it was a lot of forced stuff. I think the acting was fine.
Mhm.
She clearly can act, but I don't think her arc was very good. And I honestly think that if any there were any real negative connotations, it all revolved around the Catwoman storyline. It was all Catwoman. Like Catwoman was his in to Carmine Falcone, but it still was oddly convenient that not only was he the into the nightclub, but he was also her stepdaughter or illegitimate daughter or whatever, and he didn't
Mhm.
know, even though Falcone may have been an arm's length type of acquaintance to the Waynes, but he was definitely an acquaintance. So I don't know, that whole scene felt or like arc kind of felt forced. It didn't feel
Mm.
natural. Where in the rest of the movie it all felt natural, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the movie flowed really well. Like, yeah, it's almost. I mean, it's 3 hours, but I feel like the 3 hours was necessary. Like, if you tried to crunch all this down, like even like a half hour, like you that'd be cluttered. I would think.
See,
Like,
I'll debate that. I think you could have cut. There were a lot of scenes that were dragged out. Like I didn't think you needed to see a lot of like him. There were just scenes where he would walk for like a minute, and it was just like, why do I need to see all of this? Or like the Court of Owls fight scene in the beginning was kind of cool, but like you didn't need to see the whole lead up on the train. You just needed to see that they were following the guy. There were ways to cut time. Doesn't
mm,
matter. At the end of the day, it's fine that they didn't. But it did. There were lags where it did feel really long. Um, and like there was so much talking in the middle, which was you needed it, but like you could
yeah,
have found a different way to do it and maybe keep people engaged. Because
I
like
think
you needed some more action, a little more action, just to kind of break up the talking.
this is something I think Matt Reeves. This is definitely something that he really likes to do. He did a couple of the new Planet of the Apes
Mhm.
movies, and it kind of like the way it was, a lot of the music, the way these movies were shot, it reminded me a lot of those. Especially the music. The music was like very very similar to like War for the Planet of the Apes, for example. But yeah, I think that's a thing that Matt Reeves just really likes to do. Um, yeah, I mean, I couldn't find a single bad thing about this movie, like
Yeah,
in
the
my
the
opinion.
Selena Kyle storyline was gross. Um, it really was like I mean, it was forced. It wasn't terrible. Again, it wasn't so terrible that when you're watching it in the moment, it's distracting. But when you take a step back and you think about it, it's like, man, that was either real lazy writing at times, or it was just like trying to save time because you could have made that like a 4-hour movie, giving her the appropriate amount of backstory she needed.
Hmm.
But outside of that, break down the villains, I guess. Penguin, was kind of a side character, and he was to throw you off from Carmine Falcone, which the Falcone character was written to perfection. The Riddler was the biggest, like, look over here villain,
Hmm.
while Falcone was doing everything. It was it all played out fine. I just wish there was kind of like a better resolve for the Riddler. I hated that he was in prison during his big coup d'etat. You know, I
Mm.
didn't like that. But I mean, it is what it is. It set up the end credit scene or whatever. But I really wanted him to be there and then Batman to fight him, because I would have liked to
Mm.
seen what Batman did. Would Batman turn him in, or would Batman kill him? I think that would have been a really good resolve.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, especially after finding out that like how far back they went with one another, apparently. Yeah, I can kind of see your point on that. I don't know how they would have done it if he was going to be there. Like maybe like if like Batman didn't catch up with him and like he didn't end up in jail, would it just be him just like unmasking like every single Riddler that was in the garden, and then like
Yeah.
the one he like least expects it is Paul Dano, and
I
then
mean,
that's
can
his
we
like
talk
big.
about the casting of the Riddler too? That dude's best movie is The Girl Next Door. Hello?
Yeah, dude, and he did, and he nailed it. He was he. There was at times where like he was freaking me out, like, and I don't like I don't like startle easily, um, but like even people around me were like, "This dude's nuts."
I
Like, he
yeah.
sold it.
Yeah, the Riddler was, I wanted more. I thought he was great. I like the riddles. The riddles weren't like, I don't know. Jim Carrey gets a bad rap, but
Hmm.
I mean, he was amazing in his role at the time, but Jim Carrey's riddles were very easily, they were word answers. This, you had like a cipher, you had glow in the dark lights, you had mazes. Everything was part of the riddle. Everything,
Hmm.
whether it be the people or the traps, everything was a part of the riddle. And I thought it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And then his voice too.
Yeah.
So good, man. It is just a shame that at the end of the day, the result, and I say that too, knowing that the result that they did get was the conversation. Again, this isn't a very action movie, right? This is a talking movie. It's a character movie with some action. But the conversation at the end where it's like, oh, he's going to tell everyone Bruce Wayne's the Batman, and he just hates Bruce Wayne.
Hmm.
That was like, I don't know about you, man. My heart was pumping. I was like, everyone's already going to find out?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I'm like the cat's out of the bag already. I'm like, well,
Jesus.
I thought I was like, is he gonna tell people and like people are not gonna believe him because they think he's crazy? I'm like, or is this really gonna get out?
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was hard to tell.
damn. Yeah, no, that is the villains were good. I didn't like the Joker stuff.
That was surprising because I was like, well, I like that. Obviously, they're not gonna show who, like who's playing the Joker. You kind of just see like that like very subtle like silhouette. But that'll be interesting if they're gonna go with a new Joker.
They are. They
Yeah.
cat it's the guy from the Eternals, but
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
yeah, it's one of the guys from the Eternals, the guy who lived in the forest for a little bit. I can't remember his fucking name off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it was the Joker, although watching it, I kind of thought it was like Two-Face or something because his prosthetics.
That was, but I might have thought that too when I was watching
Um,
it.
yeah, there was that, and then there was honestly, there was a lot of, I don't know. I didn't think they did a good job unveiling the Joker, and I didn't think they needed to do what they did. Um, I think they tried too hard with the Joker.
Well, I feel like with the Joker now, especially after the success of the Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Like that's like the highest grossing like rated R movie like of all time. So I feel like Warner Brothers now is probably like, all right, we gotta put in as much Joker as we can now. So I feel like that's why they put him. I mean, eventually you gotta get Joker if you're doing Batman. But I feel
But it
like
sounds like they already faced off. They already squared off because he's in jail and he knows the Batman. Like it sounds like they already squared
yeah,
off once. So it's like we're not even seeing, that. And I hope to God Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is not tied to this. Like I really don't. I didn't think that movie was very good, and I
mm,
didn't think he acted phenomenally. Again, I just don't think that movie fits in the Batman universe. Especially the Batman. What just happened? His Joker doesn't
yeah,
fit. It like doesn't fit at all because now, like you would imagine that Joaquin Phoenix character is super fucking old or dead, right? And B, like Carmine Falcone would have snuffed that motherfucker out in a heartbeat. No way he's gonna let the clown run around and mess things up, right?
mm,
Like he let the Riddler do the Riddler things to get rid of the Batman. That's
yeah, yeah.
and even then he wanted to shut him up over his own dirty laundry.
Hmm.
So it's like I feel like Falcone would have snuffed out Joaquin Phoenix's Joker ASAP. Just no, not dealing with that. Because I mean, the Joker wanted everyone to burn, right? He didn't just
Yeah.
care. He didn't care who it was. He was just like chaos. Yeah, chaos.
Yep.
So I don't think that I think they need to keep them separated. If you want to tell both stories, great. Keep them separated though. Don't connect those. And and honestly, if I'm Matt Reeves, I'm not connecting this to anything. I'm not tying this to The Flash. I'm not tying this to Cavill's Superman. I'm not tying this to fucking anyone. This is my
Yeah.
shit. I killed it, and I'm gonna keep telling my
Well,
story.
the interesting you say that because I think I read something the other day. The reason like there's a reason why Matt Reeves like hasn't taken a huge interest into an MCU movie is because he feels like with an MCU movie that's like way too much to like tie into your own movie. So that's why he was really interested in the Batman because it was like a fresh start and you don't have to connect this to anything. Like this is your thing.
Yeah,
Um and yeah, I mean he did an excellent job with all of it.
I mean he did a good job, and it didn't feel like a superhero movie. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't the predictable formula where you have your hero's journey. The hero's journey was very very sorry, chat said they needed me to turn you up. Um but very, like, I don't know, it was unpredictable, but in a good way.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't really know where it was going,
I
and I liked that.
Yeah, like the Riddler's, and if you call back to Schumacher or whoever did the Riddler back in the day, um that Riddler, like, you knew what his end game was, right? He wanted to get everyone poisoned so that he could take over Gotham. So this one, you had no idea what the hell he wanted, and I think they did a really good job of just making it like smoke and mirrors
Hmm.
almost.
Yeah,
Because
dude,
even when he attacked Bruce Wayne, I had no idea that his big plot was to kill the mayor.
I had no idea he was flooding the entire city.
E-
So when
Yeah,
he's nobody knew the Batman didn't even know. But when he's like blowing up each like seawall, and even that whole entire thing at the garden, I was like just like whoa, when did I'm like the fact that this is happening, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, man, I thought that was dope.
Yeah.
I thought that because even like I don't know, even Nolan, I don't think got that right, right? Like he did the Bane thing where they were gonna blow up the town or whatever, and even then I don't think that was kind of meh. But like I think Matt Reeves nailed everything but Catwoman. I think the Catwoman stuff was just didn't love it.
Mm,
Loved her as an actress. Thought she did a really good job. She made me actually give a shit,
mhm.
but her storyline was meh. Um, and then
Well,
I even thought like there was room to bring in like a Bane, introduce Bane as like a bodyguard.
yeah.
I thought there was room to bring in, I hear the villain in the second one is Mr. Freeze. That's
Mm,
who they already have the green light for is Mr. Freeze is the next one. I thought you could have segued to him a little bit. They reading the rap sheet, it sounds like there's a lot going on in this movie character-wise. When you watch it, they use the character so well just to tell a story. It felt like a comic book where like you can have a
yeah, that's what
million
my friend
characters
said.
in there.
Another friend of mine said, like, he felt like he was reading a comic book watching this movie.
And you know what? I mean, if you do have any interest, the new 52 run is what they're doing. So the new 52 is what they will be kind of displaying. So that's what they're doing, and the Court of Owls, I think, is going to be the main villain in the trilogy. So the third movie will be the Court of Owls,
Mm,
um, which will be really good. And they already seeded that because the Court of Owls go back to like the Arkhams and the Waynes and stuff. It's going to be good. I think they're on the right track. The second movie is going to be huge because
yeah.
the Joker and Batman confrontation is so pivotal in telling these stories that you only get one crack at it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm usually on board for off-brand casting. I don't think they cast the right Joker. I don't love that dude as an actor. I don't love that dude even when he was talking. His voice didn't sound right.
Well, one thing I liked about that Joker part was like all right, they cast somebody for this movie as Joker, but like the way the scene played out, you can make a change if you need to.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to stick with this guy. Like so if they want to make a change to Joker, they can get somebody.
Well, they already cast him. It's done. He's casted.
Well, I
That's
mean,
done.
well, they could still make that change, if they need to,
I don't think they will. They got
you
their
know,
guy, which is fine, right?
you know.
To your point, he can make changes to the character and
Mm,
what he's gonna do, but his Joker, and this is why I think they had prosthetics on him. His Joker is gonna be the one that has the faces stapled to his face.
mm,
So he's going that his Joker is gonna be more gritty than what Jared Leto was supposed to be. And this is actually another thing that I saw this with a group of friends, and my friend Kat brought this up. Was that why was this not rated R? I think we deserved an R rating, and I think that the Batman should have fucking killed someone in the beginning, and then you show
mm.
him towards the movie not killing. I think he should have killed one of those kids in the Court of Owls scene and kicked like one of them in front of a train by accident, even if
Maybe
by
by
accident.
accident, yeah.
But I
And
think
then
he should have.
and
And
then
then
maybe he's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And
well,
then
even
that,
still want it maybe, but then like as the movie progresses and you hear like, oh, Thomas Wayne had this man killed, and it's just like, that part becomes a little more it hits home, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, I
he's
killed
like,
someone.
yeah, yeah,
So like I think that would have been cool to see that character progression. Granted, now I'm nitpicking, right? Like the movie was great. If you're
yeah.
on the fence of like I don't really like superhero movies. I don't really know much about the Batman. Do I need to see all the No, you don't need to see any other movies. You
Nope.
don't need to know much about fucking anything. You just need to get your ass in that theater, wear sweatpants, um, and
Dude,
preferably find a movie with recliners and heated seats and just go fucking watch, man.
yep.
It,
Yeah,
it,
that's all you need to do.
it's it really is like it's a movie that if you don't go see, you truly are missing out. And the last time I think like there was a movie, there was no strings attached. It was just go see this movie. It's so good. Is like Titanic, man. It's
Mm,
right up there. Maybe Avatar. Avatar might be a better comparison because it was close, 3 hours, no intermission. It's
yeah.
yeah.
Dude, I always say with the 3 hour movies, don't drink anything like an hour and a half before.
I want my popcorn. Now, honestly,
No.
bro, if you eat or drink anything, to John's point, during this movie, I had to pee halfway through, and
Yep.
thankfully, I'm a guy and I wore sweatpants, and the bathroom was right there. I peed, came back, I missed maybe a minute. And
Yeah.
then I came back to the penguin being questioned. Dude,
Yeah.
this movie is so fucking good. If you like mystery movies, it's for you.
Hmm.
If you like thrillers, this is for you. If you like romance, skip. But
Yeah.
if you like everything
Well,
else, man, this movie's fucking dope.
another thing that I'm gonna bring up that's interesting, and like it kind of goes into like the character thing, but it's not really a character, but it kind of felt like one. Like we've seen it portrayed like at least a dozen times, but Gotham, like to me in this movie, like Gotham really felt like, and just like by the way it looked, and maybe just the way this movie was filmed too, it really felt like Gotham was just this like hopeless place and just this just I'm just gonna say it, just a flat out just dump. And like here's Batman, still standing up for this city, and like it's kind of like a loss, like a losing battle, but yet wants to he still wants to fight for this city. And I like the way I loved Gotham in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool, and it would have been really much better, much better, if this came out during the election. The whole time, all I could think about was like the political aspect here is like it was pretty cool, and how into politics everyone was during the election because of we had nothing else to really focus on.
Mm,
I really think it would have that motif or whatever would have been really cool to kind of compare to real life, just thinking about how politicians, all of them are fucking corrupt, but like
yeah.
what do you do when someone finally says enough? Because the Riddler, depending on how you want to look at this is what I loved about the Riddler. He wasn't a bad guy, really. He just had enough. He had enough of the bullshit and the
Yeah.
lies, and he was. They made him in the earlier movies and stuff like that. They make him like a scientist, right? But in this one, he's an accountant for all of you know
I think he's a like a forensic accountant.
Yeah, he's a
I
forensic
think.
accountant, and
Yeah.
he just connected all the dots of the corruption, the lies, everything, and he was just a citizen who had fucking had enough. He had
Yeah.
enough of all of it. So, like, it was really cool to see that, like, the Riddler wasn't a bad guy. He was just
Hmm.
crazy. He was just fucking
Dude, I was
nuts.
surprised he only had 500 followers. He should have had. I thought he would have had way more than that. Like on whatever he was like live streaming on.
That was bizarre when they said 500, like, that's a shit ton. I was like,
I'm
I
like
think that was a
500,000.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be 500,000. I don't think you said that line right. But yeah, no, that was man, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the few movies too where I'm like, man, I can't wait for the sequel, but we gotta wait till like 2025.
One of the producers said that we'll have a sequel for this movie at within the next 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, and I wonder if that's because they do have so many high profile names that like it's just tough to get them all in a room together to film.
Yeah.
Or if Reeves is burnt out because that dude spent 3 months editing this movie and he
Yeah.
edited it.
It
Like
felt like a long time.
that's like for people out there who don't know, like a director doesn't normally edit his own movie. He comes in and will like say like I want this, show me it when it's done. He sat down and fucking edited it.
Dude,
Like,
we saw his desk in that like
yeah,
that
with all the
Instagram post.
gross food just everywhere. Like I mean, again, not to go back to Entourage, but Entourage is good for understanding the movie business. They'll hire full teams to edit, and Matt Reeves was sometimes in there by himself just editing,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
because of COVID. So the dude may be burnt out and just needs some fucking time away to. I don't know. Did he write this? I think he wrote it too, right?
He might have gotten a writing credit in it. I'm gonna check that out now.
Because if he wrote it too, the dude deserves a fucking vacation. I don't think this is an Oscar worthy movie. Um, yet I'd like to
He
see the
did.
rest.
He
Yeah,
does have a writing credit.
yeah. I thought he
Yeah.
wrote it.
Yeah.
He didn't write. I think it was the end. He didn't write. But like I think the movie could be nominated for an Oscar. At the end of the year, it probably won't be. But
Jesus, he produced this too.
yeah, dude, he was all in on this. I
Yeah.
think I think if anyone was gonna get a nod, the soundtrack's gonna get a nod. And
Definitely.
I think supporting actor wise, I'd be shocked if the Carmine Falcone doesn't get a nom because he was phenomenal. Maybe Gordon. Gordon was really good.
Yeah, I liked Jeffrey Wright. I thought he was a good Gordon. He
When
wasn't the
Batman
commit.
when Batman fucking tuned him up and he goes, "You could have pulled the punch." He's like, "I did."
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking late. There's a scene anyone watching where like Batman is in the precinct and all the cops think that he killed a cop or something like that. Um, so all the cops in Gotham are literally waiting to just fucking arrest him. And
Gordon's like punch me in the face.
yeah, Gordon hands him like subtly excuses all the cops and says like, I just need to talk to him for 5 minutes, then you guys can have him. And he like hands him a key and goes, "You're gonna hit me now, and then you're gonna escape out the back." And he fucking cold cocks him to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
He doesn't hold back the punch even a little bit. And then when they teamed up too, like man, I thought
Yeah.
they did Gordon so fucking well. I just hope again keep this Batman. I like what Nolan did and didn't force a Robin in there. Keep it Batman. Just keep it Batman.
I feel like his this Batman, I don't think you're gonna see a Robin with him.
I think in time we will, but
Maybe, but like, well, one thing we'll end on, before we go, is the main focus of this entire movie really is Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like I've seen like some people like kind of have a gripe with him because you don't really get a huge difference between Bruce Wayne and Batman
mhm.
with him. Well, but I mean, to that point, what I liked about him, about his, especially his Bruce Wayne, is that like he didn't have like that like cockiness to him, like that billionaire like show off, and I can do whatever I want kind of thing. Like he didn't like have like an ounce of like he was just super serious all the time, and for some reason I liked that. Like I hadn't seen like I don't think we've seen that before, and that's what I really liked about his. I liked about his Bruce Wayne, and I mean, and the fact too that it ties into like the director kind of uh being inspired by Kurt Cobain. Like you see that a little bit too.
Mm, the Bruce Wayne part, I don't. I was wrestling with this because
Mm.
he, again, I compared it to Batman Begins because I think Christian Bale up to this point, was the best Batman. And Christian Bale embodied both very well, Batman and Wayne. But what we see out of Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is a lot of I don't give a fuck. I don't
Yes.
care. And that was cool, right? Because like you see him struggling to be Bruce Wayne. Um, but I don't think we ever got resolved there. And that's what killed me. Is like, okay, at some point, he maybe, again, the references here are very subtle. So like if you misinterpret one line of something, you miss someone's character growth. But I don't know if
Mm.
he ever fully came around to be like, I am also Bruce Wayne, like proud of that. And then you kind of get that moment when Alfred's in the hospital and he's laying into him. And then Alfred's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what happened. You kind of get that moment, but then you don't see any payoff. Like nothing changes that we see.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of it too is him wrestling between being both. Like I think like right now at his character's point, like he's fully invested in being the Batman. Like he even says it, like he's a total night owl. Like he even says it, like I am like nocturnal. Like he's keeping a journal, on his nights as being Batman. Just like walking around the city. This like just watching
Notes I
stuff.
thought was
Like,
really, really interesting. I thought the notes was cool.
yeah, so like I think the reason you don't see a big difference between Batman and his Bruce Wayne is that he's fully invested in being Batman right now. So he doesn't really know how to be Bruce Wayne anymore. I mean, so we assume he's, it's been established. He's an established character, but like that's why when you see him at like that funeral scene, like he doesn't want to be out in public, but he
Yeah,
knows
it was very
he has to
awkward.
be. Yeah, he
Yeah,
has to
even
be.
talking to Falcone, like one of the only people he wanted to talk to because he kind of felt like the Batman, he was just like super weird about. Um, but the other reference was when Alfred's like, the accountants are coming over, and he's just like, here today,
Yeah,
like, bro, like, there just needs to.
yeah. He's
I,
like
I
me. He's like
wanted,
me when people are coming over.
I wanted some payoff though at the end of like him maybe putting a real suit on to go to Wayne Enterprises or something. It just felt like we kind of left that open, which is fine. I mean, grand scheme of things, it's small potatoes. I mean, I think you gave this a perfect score. I gave it like a 4.5. Just
Yeah.
it was very long and like
Hmm.
the length is fine. Like Avengers Endgame, I watched on repeat. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it felt long in certain areas, and maybe it's because I started it at 8 p.m.
Oh,
and
yep. I'll do it. Yeah.
but like I love the movie. I think it was great.
Yeah. I literally, like I said at the beginning of this, I did not find anything wrong with it. Really. I mean, I'm gonna go for a second viewing. I'm gonna go for a second in a couple of days. So that'll be my time to probably find, maybe things to pick out of there, here and there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it. Yeah, again, it could be nominated for an Oscar. I don't think it will be because this year is actually loaded with movies, and superhero movies usually take a back seat. But as far as how good this really is and whatever, I think that Carmine Falcone will definitely get a nod, and I think that the soundtrack will definitely get a nod.
I think all the things that come out of this, excuse me, definitely. If as far as Oscar talk, I think the thing that is most certain with this is probably the soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack, 100%.
Yep.
There's just so many actors in this. I'd be shocked if anyone got nodded, but if anyone should, it's definitely Falcone, the guy who played Falcone. Outside of that, though, I mean, I didn't think Pattinson like really had a life changing performance.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think Zoe showed she can act, but I don't think she
Yeah.
was crazy good either. Alfred or Colin Farrell were probably um the next two.
Yeah.
I'd say I like they were
Colin
Alfred
Fa- Colin
Alfred's
Farrell is
monologue.
Colin
Go ahead.
Farrell especially because like even with that makeup, like I remember I told I told my girlfriend that that was Colin Farrell, like before, but she didn't know this when she saw the movie. She's like, "It was?" I'm like, "Yeah," and like that's how well the his makeup was, and how good his acting was.
I thought Colin Farrell was really good.
Yeah.
I still think the monologue from Alfred was like the most heart you got in the movie.
Mm.
Um, in the bed. um, sorry, I just got a message that made me laugh and it's totally sidetracked me. Uh, yeah, but outside of that, you know, Colin Farrell. I don't think we'll ever get a Colin Farrell movie, where he's the guy. And I kind of
Yeah.
like the formula here where there isn't going to be the guy, I like that because I don't know if you remember, and I know we're kind of dragging out the ending here, but the drops, the drug that they were
Hmm.
going over, I think the drug is Scarecrow. I think that's a lead in to Scarecrow.
Oh.
And I think Uh, or at least it opens the door. So now you have the Scarecrow, you have Penguin who's still out, you have Joker, you have the Court of Owls. We haven't even touched Bane yet,
Yeah.
or anything there. Catwoman's still a villain for those people
Yeah.
out there. She played the good guy here, but I guarantee you she's gonna want to fucking kill someone and she's gonna have to fight Batman, like truly fight Batman. So like there's all that. And honestly, Pattinson's so young where they could do 5 movies.
Yeah.
I I don't think it would
Yeah.
be unrealistic to do 5 movies, and, like, I th I think if Matt Reeves doesn't burn out, this is gonna be a fucking great story of Batman. This is going to be the best. As of right now, would you take Batman Begins or would you take this? Not knowing what you know about the trilogy.
This.
Yeah,
I would take this over
yeah.
Batman Begins. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing. Batman Begins. Although I still think Bale was better than Pattinson.
Mm.
I would take this movie because of the promise. Um, the promise of where this is going is so much better than Batman Begins. Batman Begins was the formula was basic, but they took Batman Begins and they brought it to the next level as far as
Yeah.
grounding everything. Like he's driving around town in a Dodge Challenger in this. He's not driving a tank. He's not driving a flying
Dude,
tank.
I love this Batmobile.
The
Like in
Batmobile is
this
a
movie.
Dodge Challenger without fucking like windows. It was
Well,
so cool.
yeah, I liked it. It wasn't like the super like flashy like futuristic like Batmobiles that we've seen in the past. Like it was just uh not simple, but like just like not an overly flashy like Batmobile, and I liked it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and it was
Yeah.
realistic, right? Like because he just drove a Challenger. He didn't drive a
Yeah.
tank that only one company has. It's a one of
Yeah.
two. He drove a fucking Challenger, and his oh man, dude, they. I digress. We could talk for 7 hours. It,
Yeah.
anyone watching, they took Batman Begins, they took the general idea that made it so good, made it gritty and grounded, and they brought it to the next level. Um, so definitely,
Yeah.
if you're on the fence, Batman is the way. It is the way.
No, dude, I would put the Batman up there with some of the best movies of for this character.
Dark Knight still has to be number one. There's
Yeah,
just
it's I would put this up there. I would put this up there with the Dark Knight and Batman from I think 1989.
yes,
Like
the original.
Michael Keaton's Batman. Yeah, I would put
It
this up there with those two.
yeah, I would definitely say that's a good top three. That's a
Yeah,
good top three. The order you can argue, but Dark Knight has to be number one. There's just that movie is that movie is perfect.
yeah. That seems like that's the one. That's the one to beat.
That might be the greatest comic book movie of all time.
Mm.
You can make some
Yeah.
arguments for other stuff, but Jesus Christ, Heath Ledger. Did we
Yeah.
we had no idea. You
Yeah.
know, the hate for Robert Pattinson was catastrophic. The hate for Heath Ledger's Joker casting before the trailer was, I don't know if you remember. I was new to the chat room era
Yeah.
before it died.
Yeah.
Holy shit, the hate he got was, there's no way he was on social media. There's no way. Social media was
Yeah.
kind of young then, but there's no shot he partook in that, or he would have he
Yeah.
really would have lost his mind. That was, oh my god, just fucking the greatest performance we've ever seen, and no one saw it coming.
No,
But
yeah, I remember that. Well, a lot of that had to do with a lot of that had to do with like his Brookback Mountain, like all that stupid talk like that, like it's like stuff like that. But yeah, nobody saw that coming.
yeah, there was the Brokeback Mountain stuff, and then there was the uh the Patriot,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
he
yeah,
was just a
yep,
derpy kid the whole time.
yep.
Or 10 Things I Hate About You. They're like, what is he gonna do? Sing to the Batman?
Yeah,
Amazing.
like that's a good comparison, like to like an actor's like past. Like all you look at is their past, and then they just nail it. Like that's
Uh,
what happened. That's exactly what happened with Robert Pattinson. You know, everybody thought Twilight, sparkly vamp or whatever.
I mean, I
But
thought,
I thought he
if
did
you
excellent.
do you think he did a better job, Christian Bale or Michael Keaton? Val Kilmer and George Clooney are not in this conversation because I thought they were both terrible.
No.
But like, if not, again, take away the sequels. I don't think, did Michael Keaton even do a sequel? Yeah, he did. He did
Yeah,
one.
he did.
Um,
Batman
take
Returns. Yeah.
take the sequels away. Who do you think had the best first performance? Because I would argue Pattinson didn't do a bad job, but he's still not a top 3 or not above the other 2.
That's a tough one. A first movie,
First movie.
I would probably say,
Because I almost, and hear my logic while you think.
yeah,
So I think he was fine, right? Like this isn't a knock on his performance. His performance was good. There were a lot of areas where he could have been really, really bad, and a lot of
mm,
areas where he could have looked like an absolute buffoon. But he sold heartbreak without even talking, which is very difficult. And he sold the fact that he was the smartest person in the room without sounding like the smartest person in the room. And he
mm,
also did a really good job of just, you know, like he did this thing with his just like his stare, where he wasn't just looking at things, he was calculating, he was thinking of the next move, and he was trying to be Batman as Bruce Wayne without giving away that he was the Batman. And I think that
mm,
sounds really ridiculous to say out loud, but like that is a very difficult thing to do, because even George Clooney, who's a phenomenal actor, sucked at it. Val
yep,
Kilmer, who's a really good actor, fucking sucked at being Bruce Wayne.
mm,
And he did a really good job of all of that. That being said, I don't think he was better than Bale, because I think Bale, like, I think at the end of the day, if something happened to Bale, like the train scene, the big finale, I think that was so brilliant and well acted. Pattinson didn't have that moment really, other than the jail scene at the end with the Riddler. And even then, it was good, but it wasn't like epic. Like you knew Bale was going to be an epic Batman in the train scene at the end with Ra's al Ghul. You
yeah,
knew Michael Keaton was going to be epic when he was screaming, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts!"
yeah,
Like screaming to Jack Nicholson. Like I just don't think we had that moment with Pattinson. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do need to rewatch it, but I just don't think we had that moment. He's going to be
yeah,
good. I think he's going to be really good, but I've thought that since day one. I didn't need to see this movie to know that he'd be a good Batman.
yeah. I don't know if I think maybe it has to do with just. I think with Christian Bale, I mean, he had that was. I feel like his moment had a bigger lead up to it because that was pretty much that was an origin story for him. Like I don't think Michael Keaton didn't have that
Nope. That was a
in
Joker
the
origin. Yeah.
yeah, he didn't have that in his movie. Robert Pattinson doesn't have that in his movie. So that's probably what makes Christian Bale stands out a lot more. Is the fact that he had that.
You should
Um,
definitely go rewatch. That would be a good podcast. Is which Batman was best in their first movie?
yeah, I
That
mean that's a tough one. You know who not to put in there, but who you do put in there,
I
that's
mean,
tough.
again, it's tough because we do know that Michael Keaton goes on to deliver an amazing performance in Batman Returns, and you know that Bale and Ledger are arguably the best Batman Joker combo. Like you can obviously make your arguments, but
Mm.
Jesus Christ, what a movie that was! And now it's like we need more of Pattinson, but at the same time, you know he's going to be good. You know he's good. Dude's just a fucking
Yeah,
stud.
I think the doubt is gone. The doubt in him is not it's not apparent anymore. Like there's no you can't debate it anymore.
Fucking stud.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up on this. Who do you want the villain to be in the next one? Like they teased a lot of villains. Who would you
Yeah.
want to see?
I think you need to see I want to see Mr. Freeze again. Well, because I mean,
Yes.
you can God, Arnold Schwarzenegger he did that. We all saw that and we all know how that was. But I think with the way they set it up too, like Gotham is like totally flooded now. Like that is just water everywhere, and Gotham gets a snowstorm or whatever. I mean, this is a chance for Mister Freeze to do something. I think
Yeah, that's
so.
actually a good point.
I think you should bring him in the next one.
Wouldn't that be wild? I think the same thing. The second they
Yeah.
even mentioned that Freeze was going to be the next villain, I'm like, ooh, okay.
You don't even have to put the Mister in there. Like you could I mean you could ode to it. But we know he's Mister Freeze, but like if you don't want it to sound like too cheesy, just call him Freeze.
Yeah, I think that's what they do in some of the new games and stuff like that. They just call him
Yeah.
Freeze. Dude, I would
Yeah.
I don't need to
Well,
see Poison Ivy. I don't need to see Harley Quinn. I don't need to see I
yeah.
don't need to see the Joker. I'd like to see the Joker, but I want to make sure it's done right. I need Freeze. I need it.
Yeah, I think that's what they should do with the next one. Put Mr. Freeze in there. Joker, I think if you want to do Joker, give him that nod like you did in this one more time.
I agree with that. I wouldn't mind seeing Freeze and Scarecrow. Like I
Yeah.
think Matt Reeves' version of Scarecrow would be fucking horrifying. Because what he did with the Riddler was scary. Like the
Yeah.
Riddler was kind of scary, bro. I think
Yeah.
if you let him just unleash Scarecrow and Freeze together, whew, yeah,
Yeah. There's people on God knows what in a blizzard. It's just let that happen.
oh boy,
Yeah, there's a lot to play with after this movie, but it's only March, but this will definitely be one of my favorite movies of the year for sure.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, we got Morbius coming, Strange coming.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's going to be the best comic book movie of the year, to be honest. But as of right now, it holds the throne.
yeah. Like there's a lot this year, but the Batman was one of the ones I've been looking forward to the most,
Mhm.
and that definitely paid off.
100%, bro.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So that's that's pretty much we're gonna pretty much wrap this premiere episode of You Can't Beat the Classics. So that was that our thoughts on the Batman. What did you think of the Batman? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the episodes that we pump out for this channel. All sorts of different platforms we're on: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and George streams them on his Twitch as well. Twitch.tv/Bison Madness. Be sure to check those out. But yeah, thanks for listening to us talk about the Batman. And we're gonna have plenty more premiere episodes coming up later in the year.
All
So I'll
right.
end it here. See you guys.
See y'all.